You are connected.
Hello, you guys. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Outside the Box. I'm really excited for the guest that I have tonight. But before I go into that, I just want to let you guys know, if you're watching this for the first time, that my name is Sage the Coach. Actually, my real name is Stephanee, and our guest tonight is named Stephanee also. But I am Sage the Coach here, and I'm not a coach because I coach basketball or any other sport. I am a certified life and relationship coach, and I do all of these things from a biblical perspective. I'm also an author and a speaker and a bunch of other stuff, a mother, a wife, and all those things. But um, but that's why I am called a coach for this program. And my show usually airs on Monday nights at 7 o'clock, sometimes 8. It just depends, but I'm really trying to stick closer to 7 now. And my show Outside the Box revolves around revealing or showing people that God is bigger than our boxes, because a lot of the times we miss our blessings, we miss growth, we miss out on so many things in life because we keep God inside of a box, and He is not in our boxes. He is bigger than our boxes, and we have to come outside of those things to not only understand God better, ourselves better, but to also have those blessings and things in life that we were meant to have. And so another thing that I want to mention is that I'm not sure what page you're watching this on. You might be watching me on the Speakeasy page or my page Outside the Box. But for those of you who are watching me on the Speakeasy page, I have my own Facebook page for my show, which is called Outside the Box. You can find me on a link to that. I will put a link to that underneath the comments in here. And I'm also on YouTube, and I'm also on Instagram. So you guys, please make sure you go and like my page and share my page. You will find out more about my show and what I'm doing and things like that on that page, more than you will know about on the Speakeasy page, because my show on their page is just on Mondays. But of course, my page is throughout the week. I post quotes and different storylines and things like that. So if you guys want a little bit more inspiration throughout the week, please make sure you go and like and follow my page. Again, I'm on YouTube and Instagram and also on Facebook. Hello, Jason. My guy Jason is here. Thanks for tuning in. The last thing I want to say before I bring my guest on is, if you guys saw earlier or even last week, I've been posting a promo video about a mentoring group that is starting next week that is going to be led by Dr. Reverend James Tan. Earlier today, we did a little bit of a live promo where he explained a little bit more about the group. And I hope if any of you guys are interested in something like that, or you need something like that, I know I do. Please go follow the link, register, sign up for that. It's going to be a very, very enlightening and transforming group. Dr. Tan is an excellent speaker. He gives excellent insight. And when you're exposed to that type of insight and information and you get that kind of feedback, it is only natural that you will grow from it. So please make sure you check that out and go, and even you can find out more information about the group on the link, which I will also put on this page. And on that page, you can also register. And so um, enough about that. Let's me go into the guest that I have tonight. Her name is Stephanee Pickney. I want to make sure I'm saying that correctly. And she is a life coach and author. She's also a mom and some other things. And she has a very, very inspiring story about her own experiences and how purpose was birthed out of her pain. And I think that's really important. It's another thing that goes with thinking outside the box, because a lot of times when we're going through things, we lose sight of the purpose that God can bring out of that, and we lose sight of what God is doing in the midst of that. And a lot of times we might feel like God has even abandoned us in that, but she's going to show how, through her pain and her diagnosis with some pretty serious illnesses, that God was able to bring purpose out of that. And I'm really excited to hear more about her story. We talked a little bit before, and I was just excited just from the conversation that we had, because I love stuff like this. And so I'm going to bring her on, and you guys will get into the interview. So here we go. Stephanee, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so excited to have you here tonight. I'm always excited about inspiring stories because it really just shows how God is. People always say the devil is busy, but God is definitely busy too. And he's
He
always
is.
working and he's always doing things. And it's so easy for us to focus on the negative and not see or
Mhm.
forget about what God is doing. And so when I hear stuff like this, I don't just like to hear it to help other people, but it inspires me also. And so I'm really, really excited to get into the topic tonight. But before we get into that, why don't you tell people a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Stephanie Pickney. I am a female executive life coach, and my coaching is centered around prioritization that is of self and business. My coaching business was birthed out of my own personal walk with dealing with illness and trying to navigate finding my purpose in the midst of pain. And so I believe part of my God given gift is to help women to find purpose in the things that they are going through and ultimately birth the things of God, which is purpose.
Yeah, exactly. I did a show last week with my daughter. Actually, we were talking about the Olympics, and we were talking about how people invest so much of their time and energy into a lot of these sports.
Hmm.
Sports that a lot of us don't even know exist. Some of the time when you watch it,
Hmm.
it's like, oh, I didn't know that was a sport, But
Hmm. Hmm.
I was saying that it just shows how purpose is really important to us as human beings. Like we have to have something to live for, to strive for. It's in our DNA, and so it's really really important to strive for purpose and a lot of that all of that purpose is found in God. It's like a lot of times
Hmm.
we look at Christianity as just a religion. A lot of people I see Christianity much bigger than a religion. I like
Right.
to say that I'm not a religious person, but within God is contained. It contains all of those things: our purpose, our identity, and all those type of things. And so, yeah, purpose is really important. So, but before we go into some of the things that you're talking about in terms of purpose, can
Hmm.
you take us back to your diagnosis? Like, what was your life like before that? What was the process that you kind of went through with yourself during that? And then, of course, we'll go into, how the beauty came out of that.
Sure. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2011. I actually had gotten married. I was very excited when I got married in 2008 to my high school sweetheart. And immediately after that, I began to experience a lot of health issues.
Wow.
And
You had never had the health issues
I
before?
I had never had health issues before. When I married, I was a virgin, so I was excited because I was just like, I didn't live for Jesus. I didn't kept my body, So going into marriage, I just thought things were going to be blissful. Life was going to be great. I wasn't going to have no problems.
Mm.
And so, like 6 months after we got married, I had my first surgery. And at the time, we didn't really know what was going on, but I was having surgery after surgery after surgery after surgery. And I had so many surgeries to where I ended up losing my job because I was out of work
Oh,
so much.
wow. Wow.
So the amount of stress, it began to put on my marriage because we just began to go through so much
Oh, yeah.
financially.
Definitely.
And so I just went through years and years and years of dealing with health issues. And I had never experienced the amount of health issues that I experienced after I got married.
Wow.
And so in 2011, I lost my grandmother. I had also found out that I would not be able to have children on my own. I was
Mhm.
told that, just you're going to have to do in vitro. I had had a procedure where my right fallopian tube was removed. I just went through so much
Mm.
and started experiencing, and I thought it was stress. My started experiencing just pain on my left side,
Mm.
numbness, tingling, couldn't figure out what it was. Went to a couple ERs. They're just like, it's nothing. You're stressed. Take some muscle relaxers. All is well. And so I did as they said, but it wasn't going away. And it was getting so bad to the point where I was having muscle spasms and my fingers would just curl because of the pain was so great. And
Wow.
I was like, something is wrong.
Right.
And I remember going to my mom's house and I was like, I don't know what else to do. I was crying so bad. She's like, look, we're going to take you to another ER. We're just going to try another hospital because we had tried so many in the area.
Mm.
Went in, they took me in. The doctor was like, you're having seizures and we don't know why. They were like, we've never seen this before, but you're having seizures. She's like, we're going to give you this seizure medicine and we're going to see how you do. Gave me the seizure medicine and I began to feel like my body was starting to calm down. And then she runs in and is like, stop the medicine, you're pregnant. And I
Wow.
was like, what? Just I was like, what do you mean? I was like, there's no possible way that I'm pregnant. She's like, you're pregnant. We got to take you off this medicine. So I'm freaking out. My husband's in Kentucky. He was on the road traveling. And so I'm calling him. He's like, what? Are you sure? Because we had gone so long with not being able to conceive. They had told us we wouldn't be able to have kids on our own, just all these things. So
Mm.
in the midst of all this great pain, here it was, I was given this precious gift and I was like, is this baby gonna live? All these thoughts
Wow.
start going through your mind about what's going on. And so they still could not explain to me why I was having these symptoms.
Yeah, because
And
seizures are not pregnancy symptoms. Yeah.
And so they're just like, well, we can't give you this seizure medicine, but we're going to have to send you to a neurologist. But they're like, we're going to keep you in the hospital for a couple of days just to kind of monitor you. And I'm just like, is the baby going to live? Just
Right.
everything going through your mind.
Mm.
And so I remember one night a nurse coming in my hospital room and she had my chart and she began to read my chart and she said, and she ran out of my room. And
Hmm.
I was like, why would she do that? It scared me. And
Mm.
so I called my mom because I'm just like, why
Now
would
what
why
is
would an right? What is it that they're not telling me? So she's like, look, call and have the doctor come see you to find out exactly what is going on. So doctor came and he's like, well, per your MRI, you have lesions on your brain. And he's like, we don't know if these lesions are stroke lesions or if there's something else. And he's like, well, we would like to do a spinal tap. And I said, well, I'm pregnant. Y'all not going to do that. That's a
it?
no. I was like, let me get a second opinion. And so he's like, okay, well, when we release you, we'll go ahead and send you to a neurologist. So they sent me to a neurologist, and he didn't know exactly what was going on either. I had like three more hospital visits. It was just crazy things were happening, but yet I was pregnant with this seed.
Mm.
And they finally referred me to the MS Center of Atlanta. And I went there and had an appointment. The doctor seen me. And she looked at me and she said, I'm sorry to tell you, but you have multiple sclerosis. And I was like, what? I was like, wait a second. First of all, what is that?
Mm.
Second of all, what do you mean? Where is this coming from?
Right.
And she began to explain to me the lesions on my brain and my symptoms and all this stuff. And she's like, well, because you're pregnant, we can't really do too much for you as it pertains to medicine. But she's like, when you get to your second trimester, your symptoms should calm because when you're pregnant, your body kind of does a adverse reaction to where it calms all of your nervous system issues.
Hmm.
So
So
she's like,
the spasms that you were having in your hands and stuff like that was the multiple sclerosis, but it was
yes.
kind of being, I maybe, I don't want to say irritated. I don't know if that's the right word, but the pregnancy was kind of triggering things.
So they believe the pregnancy stress, just over time, things began to trigger what was going on in my body.
Okay.
And so I was like, uh, why now? Like it just didn't make sense. And I felt like in that moment, my faith was really tested because I was like, here it is. We had prayed for a child. I had prayed, asked God to allow me to bear children and all this. And I'm like, you give that to me,
But
but
then,
then you give me this issue. You give me this major problem to where I'm wondering if the promise is going to be aborted, if it's going to live, if
oh wow,
I'm wondering all these things when it didn't make sense. I
yeah,
didn't understand why God had given me a promise, but yet a trial.
right, right.
And we went through, my God blessed me. I was able to conceive my child, my son. I had a fairly decent, pregnancy. I didn't have any issues. And after I had him, I thought, God's going to heal me.
Mm.
God's going to heal me. I'm not going to have to worry about this. It's not going to be an issue.
Well, let me ask
Um,
you. Let me ask you something really quick before you go to that, because it's like we're transitioning. So when you were going through the illnesses before, like you say, you were having a lot of illnesses after you got married. What was your faith like then? I mean, were you dealing with that pretty okay? But then it was like more and more and more kept coming, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is a lot. But or were you struggling in the beginning with just being sick in period?
I felt like it was a snowball effect.
Okay. Okay.
When you feel like you have devoted yourself to something and given your life to something, you almost feel like God owes you
Mm.
perfectness, that
Mm.
He owes you a bed of ease, that
Mm.
He owes you,
That you
roses,
earned it. That you earned it. Yeah.
because your thing is, well, I've lived for you, I've done your word, I've crossed every T and dotted every I. So I should be good.
Right. Look,
You
it
know,
makes perfect sense, but God don't work how we work.
He does not, you know. And if we understand how God builds character,
Mm,
character is built through trial and
yeah.
tribulation, through that crushing.
Mm,
That's when your true character is built. And that's when you find out really what's in you.
mm,
You
mm,
know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And in that, of course, it took me looking back as I've matured over time
absolutely.
to be able to say, I wasn't what I thought.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah.
I wasn't in that place with God that I thought. My trust that I thought I had in God was not there.
Exactly. And even for me, of course, my situation is not, I've been through some things too, but not with on the illness end. I was waiting for a promise and it wasn't coming to pass. And I got to a point where I got so mad and I'm like, forget it. Like, I don't, it was like, it's not like a conscious thought, but you basically like, forget it, God, I don't believe you no more. You know what I'm saying? And so when I went through that place, that very low place, and then I kind of came to terms with like, I started feeling guilty. Like, oh my goodness, I just like, this is not faith. Like, and I kept apologizing to God for getting to that place, but he showed me this happened so you would see that that was in you. Like, I'm not surprised that you said that. This is not like, oh my goodness, Sage, I never thought that you felt that way. God is not surprised, but he wanted to show me myself
Right,
because I
right,
thought I was up
right,
here in holiness
right.
and
You like, you down here, boo. Get down here.
because
Get down here.
you can't grow if you don't know where you are to
That's
start. Like,
right.
you can't finish a race if you're not sure where you are in the race. If you
Right.
think you're farther ahead to the finish line and actually you're like more at the beginning, then
Yeah.
it's going to hinder your progress. So
Yeah.
he's not showing you to make you feel bad or condemn you. But it's like, if we really want to get you where you want to be, where I want you to be, I need you to recognize where you are, and so that
Yeah.
we can work on that. So I understand what you're saying from that perspective.
Yeah,
And
because we think it's like a point system. You
yeah,
know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like
yeah.
we view it as, okay, well, I've done all these tick marks.
Hmm.
So now that I've done all these tick marks, then you're going to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah,
And he may do it,
yeah,
but it won't come without resistance.
exactly,
You know what
exactly.
I'm saying?
Yeah,
And so I really had to get to a place where I really had to learn God for myself,
Mm.
because it's easy to sing the praises of God. I'm a worship leader, I'm a minister, I, youth minister, all these things in church saying this, God is this, He's a redeemer, trust God, you're all I need, God, you're this. And He's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna try you on that. I'm gonna see if I'm gonna see if that's really true, you
Yeah.
know,
No,
and
not,
He
it's not,
knows.
and I wouldn't even say I'm gonna see if that's really true. I'm gonna show you if it's
Yeah,
really true. Yeah, yeah.
because He's like, I already know it's true.
Exactly. Exactly.
But it teaches you to really truly have a sincere relationship with God.
Yes.
And I have to say, I struggled mentally, I struggled with my identity,
Mm.
I struggled with really knowing who I was,
Mm.
because I didn't understand why such a great God would cause me such great pain.
Yeah. Oh
I
my.
didn't understand.
Yeah.
And I got to a depressed state.
Mm.
Like, I functioned in front of people, but behind the scenes, I was depressed, like functionally depressed.
Mm.
I could talk to you, you would think all was well. I could
Mm.
laugh, I could even encourage you.
Mm. Mm.
But yet I was in a low place
Mm.
because I didn't understand the plan of God.
Mm.
And sometimes we have to change our focus, we have to pivot.
Mm.
We get to a place where all we're viewing is what's happening to us, but
Mm.
we don't see it as, God, what are you doing in me? Like,
Exactly.
what are you
Exactly.
creating in me? What are you taking out of me? What are
Exactly.
you planting in me? What
Wow.
are you cultivating in me? We
Exactly.
don't look at it that way when we're in the midst of trouble.
Exactly.
And so Cayman was probably 6 weeks, and I was so excited
And
because
that's your son. You ended up having a boy. Okay.
I had a son,
Mm-hmm.
and we named him Cayman. His name means joyful.
Mm-hmm.
And I had him, and things were great. I was feeling great. I knew in my heart that God was going to heal me.
Mm-hmm.
I had in my mind that I wasn't going to have those symptoms anymore. I was like, this was just a trial that I was supposed to go through. I went through it. God's manifested seed was born. This man child was born.
Mm-hmm.
This trial for me is going to be over.
Yeah.
I have passed my test. I praised God. We gave him back to the Lord, dedication service. I'm going to be okay.
Mm.
Until one day I could not pick up my child.
Wow. Wow.
He was screaming, and I could not hold my child because
Wow.
I could not get up.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Just the mobility that we take for granted. My speech became slurred. People couldn't understand what I was saying. I
Wow.
would have to go to the pharmacy to pick up my meds, and people would make fun of me because I couldn't get my words out.
Oh wow.
I was dragging my left side, not being able to lift my arm. And I was like, God, how could you? Like, I gave them back to you. I've prayed. I believed you for healing. Why am I still in this never ending storm?
Oh my goodness. I felt that. Oh my goodness. I felt that. Wow.
Why am I in it? And it was year after year, Stephanee. I would get, oh, your MS is advancing. There's new lesions on your brain. New symptoms would pop up. I'm like, what is going on? Like, why are you giving me this child and I can't take care of him?
Oh, exactly. Oh my goodness.
I'm like, this, you gave him to me. Like, it didn't make sense to me. But
Yeah.
it's in those times that God was like, your identity cannot be tied to you being a mother.
Mm.
See, that was the biggest issue for me. My identity was always tied to a title.
Mm.
It was tied to me being a praise and worship leader. It was tied to me being a wife. It was tied to me being a mother. Well, when I felt insufficient, oh, I'm not a good mom. I'm not a good wife. Why did my husband marry me? He didn't ask to deal with a woman dealing with illness.
Mm, mm.
Why did you give me a child? Why he didn't ask for a mom to have a disability. He didn't ask for a mom that has to be in a wheelchair sometimes. He didn't ask for this. Lord, you tell me I'm supposed to do all these things. How am I going to do it crippled? How am I going to do it lame? How am I do it with my speech is slurred? How am I going to do it? Why are you my identity was tied to those things. He's like, Stephanee, I want you to know that you're fearfully and wonderfully created just in me.
Oh my goodness.
I want you to know that you're enough just in me. Not because you're a mom, not because you're a wife, not because you're a friend, not because you're all these titles, but I need you to know that you are just enough by yourself.
Oh
And the
my.
way I created you and what I've put in you is going to produce, is going to flourish, whether you got to write it, whether you got to mumble it, whether you got to sit in a chair and give it. What I put in you is going to manifest.
Oh my
But you got to
goodness.
know who you are.
Oh my goodness. My stomach is turning like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I know that was, I mean, I know the stuff that I've been through. That was a hard lesson. I know it was a hard lesson. I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking when you are going, when you're talking, I'm like, God was breaking you. Like, honestly, He was
Stripping
breaking you.
me.
Yeah. And it's
Yes.
not easy. It's not easy.
No,
Oh my
it's
goodness.
not. But the thing that I had to see is he was breaking me to rebuild me.
Exactly.
Steph,
Oh God.
it took
Oh
me
God.
so long to get to where I am now, not just in my faith,
Mm,
but just in me,
mm,
believing in me,
mm,
believing that whatever God put in me, that it's good enough.
mm,
And it didn't have to be tied to something that I was doing.
mm.
But that I'm great. God created me just to be great. And
Yeah.
what he had in me and my situation that's continuously going. I'm not out the woods.
Mm.
I look great today. You
Wow.
know,
Mm,
God gives me the grace and the strength for that day. And I thank Him for giving me the grace and the strength for that day. But there's still work to be done.
mm, mm,
And He really had to, first place He started was He had to teach me to love me.
mm.
And that love had to be based on the Word of God.
Exactly.
First
Exactly.
Corinthians 13. Love is patient. Love is kind. Doesn't boast. Doesn't keep record of wrong. I remember one day the Lord saying, Stephanee, are you patient with yourself?
Mm,
Are you kind to yourself with your words? Do you
mm,
keep records of everything that you've done wrong? He's like, you don't love yourself like I
mm.
love you.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
He's like, I got to show you have to fully embrace my love for you first before you can even give it. And here's the crazy thing. He's like, you think that you love your neighbor as you do yourself. He's like, you need to check your motive and intention. A
No,
lot of times I did because that was validation for me. It wasn't
exactly.
necessarily that I loved me. So I
Right.
was loving them. I needed the validation.
Exactly. And you can't fully love
You
another
can't
person until you love yourself. Yeah.
until you love you.
Yeah.
He had to show me that. And that meant setting boundaries.
Mm,
That meant pouring into myself the things that I needed. That meant some friends I had to cut away.
mm, mm,
That meant doing all the things, caring for myself. That meant saying no
mm, mm,
because I would push myself and push my body to be there for others, but yet I wouldn't rest.
mm.
I had to learn me. I
Yeah.
had to begin to learn to love Stephanee. And
Mm,
so, out of this whole process, God has given me a true passion for women,
Mm.
women who are executives, women that are moms, women that are entrepreneurs. To
Mm.
really, let's go back to the basics of us,
Mm. Mm.
prioritizing ourselves,
Mm.
learning to love ourselves,
Mm.
learning to be honest with
Mm.
ourselves,
Mm.
learning to appreciate ourselves, learning how to communicate.
Mm.
Because if we can effectively do those things here first,
Mm.
then as we give, it's in a more peaceful way.
Mm.
It's in a more loving way. We
Mm.
can fully give and devote ourselves to our visions and
Mm.
our goals, ultimately creating an atmosphere for harvest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because God has birthed so much in us. We are natural nurturers as women. We
Exactly.
are natural carriers,
Mm.
and He's put something in all of us.
Mm.
But our pain is going to help us and push us to purpose.
Mm.
And we've got to be in a place to be able to see it, recognize it, and really birth those things that God has put in us.
Yeah. Wow. You have said so much, and I kind of want to touch on some things, and in my mind it's kind of like, okay, where do I go? Oh my goodness, this a lot of the times, and this goes back to the whole theme of my show, Outside the Box. People, we go to God, even if it's subconscious. We kind of see God from a position of Him having the ability to give us what we want.
Mm-hmm.
We want the blessings, we want the love, like we want the things, and God is okay with us wanting those things. But the very things that we want is what He uses to shape us into who He created us to be. And we miss that part because we just
Mm-hmm.
we just want to do, I guess, the little bit of work that we think we need to do, and then okay, now I get the reward. But God is about
Right,
transforming you
right.
into the fullness of who He created you to be. And actually, those things that you want, they are only the repercussions of you getting to that place. Like once you
Yeah,
get to those places, that's when you get that stuff. It's
right.
not like you get that stuff just because you wanted, you pray, you did a little work. It's a natural byproduct of arriving to where He wants you to be. And so
Mm-hmm.
we don't realize the process a lot of times of what He's doing in us and how He's shaping us and growing us. And I did a video earlier today with Dr. Reverend Tan where I was saying that people we don't. Now I just lost my train of thought. I'll go back to it if I remember. But a lot of times we miss the process.
Mm-hmm.
And the process is the most, actually it's the biggest part of everything. Like, the
Mm-hmm.
beginning you want stuff, at the end you get stuff. In between that is a very, very long process that actually those things that we want kind of encourage us to keep going through the process because we know
Yeah,
we're going to get something.
yeah.
So we need to be more aware of, oh, that's what I was saying with Dr. Reverend Chen, that life is a classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And God will use, well, in your situation, illness, your kids, your marriage, your job, your environment, your neighborhood, your friends. He will use anything in your life at His disposal to teach you those
Mm-hmm.
deeper things to help you become who you are. And so I think that
Mm-hmm.
that's so important. It's so important. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost against our nature to look at things that way. And a
Right,
lot of what
right.
you were saying is about basically changing our perspective because that's key. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, we have to. And I think ultimately that's what faith is. If we really look at it,
yeah,
faith is not looking at what we see, but going by what we know.
yeah.
And that change of perspective or that change of lens to me ultimately starts with gratitude. And that's something that I posted about today. Just God really dealing with me about maintaining the attitude of gratitude. Because when we begin to think about the things that we're grateful for, it overshadows all the whining or
Yeah.
all of the issues or man this that and the other. We began to think, man, God, things could be worse.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
And I really had to get to that place where I began. God, thank you for the grace that you gave me today. I was
Exactly.
able to clean the toilet and the sink and vacuum.
Exactly.
Thank you,
Oh my
Lord.
goodness. Oh my
You know what
goodness.
I'm saying? For
Yes.
the
Yes.
small things that people take for granted,
Yes.
we have to get to that space where we give God thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We are entering every day with thanksgiving and praise
Yeah.
because it's due him. Things could be worse. And if we take, I believe if we take that attitude, it'll definitely cause us to pivot our perspective.
Yeah, and I mean, I went through that process too with my growth, and because we all are in this process somewhere.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes,
And it's so easy to focus on the negative things. I think it's a part of our sin nature, but it's very
yeah,
easy for us to focus on and magnify the negative things. And one of the things is that if you really want to see God, He's in the little things. The
yeah,
Bible talks about that still small voice, and a lot of times we want these big displays of power. We want these big things, but God, to really see Him, you have to see Him in the little things, like what you're saying. Even for me, is like the fact that I'm breathing right now, the fact that when I wake up in the morning I can walk to the toilet or
yeah,
brush my teeth. Like, when you think about all the little things and they add up, I mean, even to be able to eat, even be able to open my eyes, to, like you said, pick up your child, to all those things, when you look at them, they totally outweigh the bad in life. Like, I mean,
yeah,
it outweighs it so immensely that it helps you to learn how to stay in a place of peace even when stuff is going wrong, because you see that the good is like way more than the bad. And
right.
so yeah, it's wow. And it's a painful process to have your perception changed in that way, for God to really get you to open your eyes to the things that He is doing in your life, that you're not looking at, because you are just focused on the bad and what's
Mm-hmm,
going wrong and things like that.
mm-hmm,
Because like
mm-hmm.
you said, it can definitely be worse. It can always be worse. And so,
Always.
that means you always have something to be grateful for. No
Yeah.
matter what's going on, you always have something to be grateful for. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So wow. I
yes.
mean, it's an amazing story. But I want to point out to something that D Jones. We have a lot of comments and stuff going on here. Jason is here. Jason is definitely a loyal of my show, and so I appreciate him a lot. And there's D. She tunes in from time to time. She said something. She said she refuses to question God about her situation because she understands that it's for a reason, and a reason that she don't understand. And I just wanted to address that for a moment. Then you can chime in if you want to say anything. I understand that, and it's good if you can get to a place where you don't question God.
Mm-hmm,
But I don't think it's wrong to ask. I mean, I actually
mm-hmm,
think some of the things that happens is because God wants you, because
mm-hmm,
questioning comes with examination. It comes with you seeking answers. It comes from you, chasing after God to get the answer. But if you don't ask, sometimes even if there's something wrong, you don't go through. It's part of the process in a lot of
mm-hmm,
ways. Now,
mm-hmm,
people like that are more seasoned, more mature Christians can say, because like now, since I've gone through those things, I don't question him as much. I can say that because now I understand that when I'm going through stuff, it's for a reason, and He's there and He has a plan. But I don't want to make people think when you want to question God or you need to question God that God has a problem with that. Like,
mm-hmm,
He's not upset that you're asking a question. He gave us brain, He gave us a mind, and the fact that you're asking means you're open for the answer. Or let's hope you're open for the answer if you're asking. So I'm not of the mind of those people who say you should never question God. I say question away. He's our dad. But it's how you come to Him with the question. Do you really
right,
want the answer? Or are
right.
you just mad and you want to point the finger at somebody? That's different. Yeah. So
Yeah, I think I completely agree. I don't believe that it's wrong to question. I mean, you got to look at David. He's like, Lord, what is going on here?
yeah.
Job, he questioned God. There's so many people in the word that question God, but then in return, Lord, not my will. Jesus himself, he in the
Yeah.
Garden of Gethsemane, like, Lord, what's up? You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? But
Exactly.
nevertheless, not my will, but yours. And I
Exactly.
think that's the difference.
Yes.
In us asking, but still being in a place to submit to what God's will is. And
Exactly.
so I don't think there's anything wrong with us questioning and asking God, because He knows His children and He
Yeah.
know me. And I'll be like, Lord, like, what's up?
Yeah.
I love you, but I need some direction. But at the same time, I'm like, Lord, I know you're in the midst of this. I
Mm,
may not understand what you're doing, but I trust you. And I think that's the key.
exactly. And I would even say you don't even have to trust him entirely. The Bible talks about faith of a mustard seed, but just trust him enough not to turn away. Just trust him enough
Mm-hmm.
not to say, okay, I'm done with God. I don't believe you anymore. But even if you still have, you just need the faith of a mustard seed to kind of get you through to the other end. And I would even add that, even with Job and like you mentioned, David and things like that. And I talk about the mind a lot. A lot of times, if I go into especially my coaching, different shows, I talk about the mind. That's like a big thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
God knows that we need to process things, and actually, those questions are part of processing the information,
Mm-hmm.
like working through it. And as long as you come on side the other end, that's not to say you
Right.
go all off in left field and doing crazy stuff, of course. But you hold on to God through that and come on the other end still holding on to God. That's what's most important. But He does understand that we
Right.
have minds, we have limited information, and we need to process those things. And a lot of the time, those come with questions. And so, yeah,
Mm.
just want to point that out. So, wow, this is. I feel like we can go in so many different directions here with this conversation, especially about women, because a lot of the times we are very very quick to love others and not ourselves, and we
Mm-hmm.
don't even understand the difference a lot of the time. And I
Mm-hmm.
think what you said was very very key, and you kind of explain a little bit more if you want to add to it. When you talked about all these things you would do for others and being a wife and identifying yourself by all these other things, but God really had used your illness to make you stop and pause and think about the fact that you don't really love yourself. And I think it's too many women that don't understand the difference between loving themselves and actually loving other people. Because just what you said, when you love yourself, what you do for other people is just an overflow
Right.
of what is there.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
what is there. Yeah,
It's just they're feeding off the saucer of, from the cup that's you're overflowing with. And
exactly.
if we can get that image in our minds that ultimately people are just getting the residue of
Exactly.
what we already do for ourselves, then it would help us have more balance.
Exactly.
And a lot of times, because we are natural nurturers as women,
Hmm.
we can give, but we don't know how to pull back or just receive.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so God really had to teach me in that loving of myself, also included receiving,
Yes. Yes.
receiving from people,
Mm.
whether it's people wanting to bless me, because I'll be like, oh, don't do that, no, that's okay, you
Mm.
don't have to pay for that. Pride, drop your pride. God
Right.
had to show me how much pride I had,
Mm.
to where I could not receive. And that even came to receiving from him.
Yeah, because
He's
I
like,
was
I sent them to give to you, and
exactly.
you're rejecting them. Like, what are you doing? You
Exactly. And
know?
that's the thing, because anything that is interfering in our growth with other people, it interferes in our relationship with God as well. And so he uses people to show us those things,
Right,
relationships to show us those things, so that we can fix it and in turn communicate with him better. So it all kind of overlaps and things like that. But you're absolutely correct, because if you can't receive, and I'm guilty of that too, I'm totally guilty. And I even have to remind myself, like, I'll say the first time, like, okay, no, you don't have to do that. But then if the person insists, then I'm like, okay, okay. But I still, like, have this tendency, like, oh, you don't have to do for me. And, like it's my job to only do for people and nobody has to do anything for me. And it's difficult. I've been a Christian for a very long time and I still have to remind myself not to do that. But you're right. Because if you cannot receive from people because God is going to communicate with you most of the time through other people, and if you can't receive from them, then you're blocking God. Like,
right,
yeah, you're
right.
missing your blessing, you're missing your peace, you're missing a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So all of that, just taking care of myself, really letting go and not keeping record of wrong. That was something that was big for me.
Mm,
Um, just every time I do something, man, you always do this, Stephanee. What's your problem?
mm,
God's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. So you your own God now. You judge yourself now, right?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? So now you're gonna keep record? Like,
Mm,
why you man, see this is what I'm saying. Every time I do this always happens. I'm so stupid. I shouldn't have did it. Blah, blah, blah.
yes.
He's like, what are you doing?
Mm,
Where's the grace?
mm.
Where's this grace that you so easily extend to others? Why
Oh my
can't you
goodness.
give it to you?
Right. Wow.
So it's been about prioritizing me so that everything that I do, everything that comes from me, everything begins to flourish and have harvest because there's a balance, and that balance starts with my relationship with Christ.
Yes, exactly. That's what it's all about. And I was going to ask you that. I want to say, so how did all of this change? Because you talked a lot about taking care of yourself and how you're dealing with other people. But how did your relationship with God change with all of this? Because I know
Man,
that's the source. Yeah.
it evolved and it is yet evolving.
Yeah.
I am learning God in so many new ways.
Mm,
Even just from the perspective of him being my friend, my father, my companionship,
mm,
and I'm
mm.
like married and all, but just experiencing God's love for me. It's overwhelming
It
when
is.
you begin to fully embrace
Mm,
his love for you. And no, I don't have to be a certain way. My hair ain't gotta be a certain way. I ain't gotta have no makeup on.
hmm.
He just loves me for me.
Exactly. Because you're
And
my child. Yes.
that
Mm,
was so overwhelming because even through the process of me getting married and everything, I felt so inadequate.
mm,
You know, I can't have kids. Now, I can't do this. I felt so inadequate as a
mm.
woman.
Yes.
Because everybody, when are you gonna have kids? What's taking y'all so long? It's been
Mm,
5 years.
mm,
You start going through all these different emotions of I'm not good enough.
mm,
And then to have a son and still be dealing with an illness, I'm not good enough.
mm,
So
mm.
that carrying into my relationship with God, I'm not good enough for you, God. You can't use me.
Exactly.
I,
Exactly.
I I can't do this. Look at my shortcomings. All the things that people have said about, oh, well, you're this or you're that, or people's expectations. I
Mm,
began to really realize God was like, I just want you. I
exactly.
want the pureness of your heart.
Mm,
That's what
mm,
I want. He's like,
exactly.
that's what I'm reaching for.
Mm,
I want your heart.
mm.
And man, that transition, that transaction was woo,
Yes,
is
I know. I know. I'm feeling you 100%. Like my heart is just it's weeping here. I'm like, oh yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Oh my goodness.
just
Yes.
to the place where man, you love me and I don't have to be a certain way.
Yes. Yes.
Like all of my qualms, all of my issues, all of my shortcomings, you love me. Like with all of it.
You love me like they are not there. Yes.
Yes, like and
Yes.
and none of that matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that for me has been the most life-changing thing that I could have ever experienced.
Wow.
It is the love of Christ.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I feel like I want to cry. Like,
It is.
oh,
It's his loving kindness that
mm,
draws us.
mm, mm,
And when you fully just be like, here, I mean, he took my load, he took my issues, he took my shortcomings, he took all of my feelings about myself, all of those things. He's like, just give them to me.
exactly.
And in return, he's like, you're beautiful, you're enough, you're redeemed, you're
Mm,
powerful, you're great. You're
Mm.
a king's
I
kid. You're
got you. I got you.
all these things.
Yeah.
You won't have to worry about anything. I'm your protector. I'm your
Mm,
keeper. I'm
mm,
your victor. No matter what you face, I'm in it with you. When
mm,
you think you're alone, you're not, because I'm not going to leave you. I'll never leave you. So all of these things, when those transactions of exchange begin to really happen, it created such a love for God in my heart.
mm,
And
mm.
from that was birthed purpose.
Yes. Yes.
He's like,
Oh my
okay, you
goodness.
see how you feel?
Mm.
You see how I've changed you? Now I want you to tell it.
The overflow.
I want you to tell about it.
Mm,
I want you to draw people with your testimony. I
mm.
want you to minister to them. Let me pour into them through you. Just
Exactly.
just bear it all.
Exactly.
Don't care. You ain't got to worry about what they gonna think, what
Mm,
they gonna say,
mm,
none of that. Just begin to give. He's
mm.
like, give from the overflow.
Exactly. Oh my goodness, man, this is awesome. Let
And
me.
it's purpose. Purpose is just it's been birthed in me in such a way that I it's overwhelming sometimes. And
Mm.
I have to try and pull myself back sometimes. I'm like, people gonna think I'm
Look, that means you on the right path. Wow, wow, this is awesome. Let me go to this question that Jason has asked really quickly. He said,
yes.
question: how do you decipher a blessing from the Lord versus just being bullheaded and thinking you can make it on your own?
Oh, well, blessings, they don't add no sorrow. The
Mm,
blessings of the Lord maketh rich. That's what the Bible tells us, and addeth no sorrow to it. We know when we being bullheaded.
mm,
I know.
mm,
I know when I am just trying to push for my own way. I know that.
mm,
But when blessings come, it's so, man, I know that was God.
mm,
Because it's to the point where it's out of my reach. Sometimes it's things I didn't even ask for,
mm,
or it's something that I thought about and he gave it to me.
mm,
And it's like, man, that's deep. Like, Lord, you did that for me.
mm,
Whereas when I'm bullheaded, I'm sweating. It's stress. It's
mm,
stressful. But
mm,
God's blessings are there's peace, there's a level of peace that comes with God's blessings
mm,
that don't come when things are bullheaded. Give you an example. Before we got married, I told the Lord I wanted a house. I was living with my parents and I was like, God, I want a house. I don't want to move to no apartment. I want a house.
mm,
And I began to look. And before I looked, I prayed. And I was like, Lord, if it's your will, I want you to open the door for me to get a house. Found a realtor. God opened the door, got qualified for a house. Okay.
mm,
Moved
mm,
in the house, brand new, just God just blessed. Okay.
mm,
Well, mind you, I told you that I lost my job like 6 months after I got married, right?
mm, mm.
We went through so much financially. I can't tell you how many times this house was up for foreclosure. So many times. But I'm
Wow.
still in it. Why? Because this was a blessing from God.
Mm,
This was him.
mm,
If I had gotten this and it wasn't him, we and I had just did some things on my own,
mm.
I can't say that we would still be in this house. But I knew God gave me the house, and I knew that He told me that I could have it.
Mm,
So I
mm,
can rest in the things of God, in the blessings of God, because if He gave it to me, I'm good.
mm, mm,
There's
mm.
just a level of peace,
Yeah, yeah.
you know? So I
Mm.
hope that answers Jason's question.
Yeah, yeah. I hope it. Jason, you can. I know he's still watching, so if you need some clarification for your question, or if you want to add some parts to it, or if you think she didn't quite understand, or we didn't quite understand what you were saying, go ahead and post a comment to clarify, so we can clean that up for you if that wasn't what you were asking. But so he said, "Do you decide just put it in your I mean, as far as like me, I'm not like totally sure what you're asking. So I would say I mean, if you know you're being bullheaded and
You
thinking
know.
stuff on, yeah, so yeah, so I'm thinking like the difference, like when you say receiving a blessing and being bullheaded, to me, those are two different things that you would know
Yes.
which one you're doing. Like,
Yeah.
if you're being bullheaded, you're not being blessed. Like it doesn't necessarily go together. But again, send some clarification if you want to do that. Okay.
And when
Okay.
you're bullheaded, you're trying to make your own way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you're trying to make your own way. You're trying to do your own thing. When you're
Yeah.
being bullheaded, it's your way or the highway.
Yeah. And
But
go ahead.
no, but I was just going to say, but when it comes to God's blessings, it's Lord, thank you. You know it's him. It's not something that you're trying to force.
Mm, mm, mm,
You know what I'm saying? You're not trying to whatever I want is what I want. That's what I want.
mm.
Blessings from God is it's not stuff that you're forcing, it's him.
Right. And I think that's an important point. Again, we want to go outside the box a little bit. I think that's a big point that people miss a lot of time with faith, because they think it's faith in whatever they want. That's not faith if it's just you believing God for whatever you want.
Yeah.
Faith is believing God regardless of if you get what you want, if you get it, if you don't get it, you're believing that He is in control. He has a plan. He's going to do what's best for you, whether
Mm-hmm.
it looks the way you want it to look on the surface. And so I see a lot of people who have faith in God doing what they want. That means that
Mm-hmm.
God is following your lead. That doesn't mean you're following God's lead. So God is the one in the front, and you follow Him and say, in the process of following him, I can ask you for these things, but if you don't give them to me, I'm I know you're looking out for me. I know it's for
Yeah.
my best interest, which a lot of people don't do. It's like if you don't
Yeah.
do what I want, then we have a problem, God. So yeah.
Yeah. Example, I'm gonna be transparent. I applied for a job, a coaching position with a company. I've done like several interviews for them. I was like, God, I want this job. This will be perfect. Just blah blah blah. Just I had, in my mind how it was going to work out, what was going to happen. So I was like, this will do this, is this. I had my plan. They came back today and told me they decided not for me not to continue the process.
Mm.
Crushed.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
feelings was hurt. But I told my mom, I was like, though I'm crushed, I trust God's plan.
Exactly.
And I'm like, I don't know the end to the beginning. I
Mm.
don't know anything. God knows all things.
Mm.
And if this isn't it, then that means He got something else for me. And it
And
may just be the route of me still doing what I'm doing.
exactly. And whatever he has for you is always better. It's not less. It'll
Right,
never be less than what
right,
you're going at.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So it's just about submitting to the will of God, not saying that you ain't going to be crushed, because in your human nature, we have things that we desire and we
Yeah.
think we know the right plan in order to get from A to Z, you
Hmm.
know? But
Hmm.
God's like, I know so much more than you, and I don't
Exactly.
want to just limit you to this blessing right here.
Mm.
Like, I got all of this lined up for you. And if you just want to take this right here, you gonna miss out on all of this.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
know?
And it's not even just for you. And this is another thing, because God is so mind-boggling. He could be
Yes.
lining stuff up not just for you, but for your kids, for your grandkids, for like he's looking at the whole
Yes.
scope of everything, and
Yes.
you're just looking
Yes.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. And
absolutely. Yeah.
and two, not just for me, but for you, for you know what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
Yeah.
Whoever may be watching, whatever the case may be, it's not just about us.
Yeah.
It's not just about me receiving and take,
Yeah.
but it's ultimately about outreach. It's
Exactly.
about compelling others, talking to others, pouring into others. We don't know what God is doing, and we just have to be okay with God's will. And
Yeah.
that's ultimately the space that we have to remain in.
Exactly, exactly. And it's not easy. So I don't like, a lot of times when you have conversations like this, especially somebody who's, going through something, they say, "Oh, it's you just those holy field Christian people, and it's not that easy." No, it's not easy. I
It's
will be the first
not.
to tell you it's not easy. And I do understand why a lot of people like walk away and say, "Hey, God, I'm not doing this. It's not right." But I get it. I've been there. But if you just hold on, like, oh my goodness, if you just hold on, even if it's the faith of a mustard
Yeah.
seed, you will see
Yeah.
God will come through for you. You just gotta
Yeah.
hold on. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's easier said than done, but it's possible, and
It
it's definitely worth it in the end. Yeah,
it is. And what helps you get along is hearing others' testimony to let you
exactly.
know you're not by yourself.
Mm,
The way you feel is not crazy.
yeah,
You know, people are in the same place as you are, but we're encouraging one another with our testimony and just
exactly.
with, look, I'm in the struggle too, but
Mm,
I'm holding on and I'm believing that God's got something greater for me on the other side. So
mm,
you hold on too, because I know God's got something greater for you on the other side. So it's
exactly.
about moments like these where we can share and people can be encouraged, and even as you share, you find yourself getting
Look,
encouraged. Like,
I know
I
I'm
believe.
encouraged. I know I'm encouraged. Look, I'm thinking while we talking, when we get off here, I need to go pray a little bit and have a little conversation with God, because I'm definitely encouraged. So absolutely, absolutely, and God knows that we need that. Like, He's not.
Yeah,
The Bible talks about being encouragement and things like that. He knows that what we have to deal with and contend with on this earth is not easy.
yeah,
Yeah, and he
yeah,
and that's why encouragement is here. That's why you, like you said, people like us who share. He knows that we needed some little pushes along the
yeah,
way,
yeah.
and as long as we just hold on and keep taking those pushes when we get them, then we'll make it to the end, and we'll end up blessed in the end, because that's the thing about walking with God and understanding that He has a plan, is that you're
Right.
always going to come on top at the end, no matter
That's
what.
right.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
That's right.
So,
That's so true.
yeah, this has been. I am really really blessed by this interview tonight. I'm so glad that I asked you on. I know when we talked about this, I got excited on the phone talking to you about what we were saying. I'm like, oh, definitely. But I have really been blessed by your testimony, and I just thank God for, like I said, I'm sitting here like, just thanking God for even having this opportunity to talk to you, because if I
Yeah.
wasn't doing this podcast, I would never talk to you. I would never hear your
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
It's a blessing. I'm very very grateful today for this. So thank you so
I'm
much.
so glad that I had the opportunity to sit with you. I'm so excited about what God is doing through this for you.
Yeah, yeah,
So keep pushing the message, keep talking about, and encouraging people to think outside of the box of what God is doing,
yeah,
because He's using us in ways that are very unconventional.
yeah,
And it can seem, I don't know about this God. Like, what are people gonna think? What are they gonna say?
yeah.
But if we can just trust God in a new way, in
Mm,
an unconventional way, God will bless us for our obedience. So
mm,
just keep obeying God
mm,
and doing exactly as He tells you to do. And you will
mm.
begin to see the harvest. You'll begin to see the manifestation of God's word to you.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
you be encouraged, Sage. You
Yeah.
be encouraged in the things that God is doing through you and throughout the box.
Exactly. Amen. So if you want to, just tell little people about the kind of services that you offer. I know I have your website scrolling across the page at the bottom, you guys, if you want to check out and learn a little bit more about Stephanee Pickney. Please visit her website. She does have, which we didn't really talk about that much today, she does have a book out. And can you talk a little bit about your book, to some about the services that you offer and anything you have coming
Sure.
up?
Okay, I have a women's devotional. It is entitled Perfect Imperfections. A Journey of Commitment to Authenticity. It's a 31-day women's devotional, and it's my personal journey in finding God in the midst of trouble.
Mm.
I am a life coach, a female life coach, so I do offer life coaching services, both individual and group. I have not started back my group sessions yet. Those will probably convene mid September, but I am taking on new clients for individual coaching. You can go to my website that is scrolling below, www.stephanieRpinkney.com, and set up an appointment, or email me and we can set up an appointment and discuss exactly what you're looking for. And you can see if I am the right coach for you.
Exactly. Yeah. Great. And so also for me, you guys, I am also a life coach. Now, when you say female life coach, because it can be a little bit confusing, you're not talking about yourself. You're saying you coach female. So you don't coach
Yes,
men. Okay.
I do not coach men.
Okay.
My ministry is for women.
Okay, great. Okay. And so I am also a life coach, you guys, and you can schedule a free session with me right on my Facebook page. I really want to kind of, I mean, we're going to talk. I'm sure we're going to be in contact after this, but I really want to see if we can do some stuff together, but we can talk
Okay.
about that a little bit more later on. But this was a blessing. Thank you so much. And you
Thank
guys, make sure
you.
you share this interview with whoever you think could benefit from this, because this was really, really powerful and really encouraging. And I know there are people out there that need to hear this testimony today, tomorrow, next week, next year, because like you said, Stephanee, we all can use some encouragement, sometimes more than others,
Mhm.
but it is there for our enrichment, our growth, and to help us keep pushing during difficult times. So thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you guys. You have a good night. I will post links below this in the comments below this video, and tune in next week for another episode of Outside the Box. I will be doing a rescheduled interview. I was going to have Pastor Lauren Sanford on. He has so many books published. I don't even know how many there are. And he's a very, very prophetic preacher. He's very, very good, very insightful. And you guys tune in next Monday when we talk about his newest book. It has to do with like the end times and things like that, which is really
Mm.
interesting. So thank you again for tuning in, and you guys have a good night. Thank you again, Stephanee.
Good. Thank you. Good
Yeah.
night.
Bye.